Happy Friday, guys, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Dubs. I'm your host, Bill T. Well, you're hearing my voice, you know that it's Friday, and I can't leave without a podcast. So here goes another one. If you happen to be at One Crazy Weekend this last weekend, there was a couple cars on display right in the middle of the show. There was Future Shock, the notchback from the 1987 cover of VW Trends, and there was also Cal Dub. Cal Dub was another car that was built in Bakersfield, and then to the front of Future Shock, or the west of the parking lot, was Steve Knecht's bug that he had built for his mom. So Steve Knecht is the he's the founder of Volksworks, the shop that was in Bakersfield in the 80s that was producing a lot of really cool cars. And he was just painting tons and tons of stuff and building cars and all kind of stuff. So that area was kind of a Bakersfield display. And on today's podcast, we're interviewing Jack Digiacomo Senior and Junior, owners of Cal Dub, and the story of Cal Dub. Cal Dub was one of those bugs back in the mid-'80s, early to mid-'80s, that was built in Bakersfield. He was part of the VW Limited Car Club. He was the kind of guy that had a full show car, wheels off, mirrors, the whole nine, and he would drive it to the car shows, detail it when he got there, jack it up, put it up on stands, show, take trophies, and then drive it home. So it's a really cool car. It's a cool car. It's timeless. There's a great story behind it because he sold it early 90s, late 80s, and kind of just moved on as a chapter. And then his son, having fond memories of that car growing up, tracked it down to buy it back. And it's a great story about a car that disappeared and then was found again. And it's a cool story about the build process and what it's like to get your car back after someone's owned it for so many years and all these things. So there's lots of cool details to the story, and we're going to get into that in just a minute. But I want you guys to remember to support our sponsors. VW Trends Magazine. Go subscribe today at their website, VWTrendsMagazine.com. Go subscribe today. Also, Ross Wolf, high quality aftermarket parts for enthusiasts by enthusiasts. Go check them out today at Ross Wolf with a U, WULF, rosswolf.com. Click the link in the description below for either one of those. Don't forget to go check out George's YouTube channel at The Wagon on YouTube for a lot of cool how-tos and get you some detail information on how to work on your Volkswagen. Message him and tell him that Bill T sent you. Also, we'll be doing a show update as far as everything that took place with One Crazy Weekend, and it lived up to the name. It was wild. That we're going to do a roundtable with a few people that were at the event to talk about the experience of what it was. And if you missed out this year, don't miss out next year. I'm about 2 weeks away from announcing the dates for next year, and I have a feeling we're moving it to a spot that's 4 times larger. I have a strong feeling everyone's inviting friends because it was such a great time. So many people had an awesome experience that they're for sure coming back, and they're bringing some people, and everybody wants to come and get some of that sweet Vegas hardware, the big neck medallions that we were giving out for the top 20 pick. And then there's also some more stuff coming up for next year. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you guys share the podcast with your friends. If you want to support the podcast, go to letstalkdubs.com. Click on the store tab and pick up some merch to support your favorite podcast. It's about that time. And this story is about 80s cars, the cars that were built in the 80s, specifically the cars coming out of Bakersfield and that whole scene. So it's definitely interesting. I've got Jack Digiacomo Senior, I've got Junior, and I've got Steve Knecht on the podcast today. So without any further ado, guys, let's get at the story of Cal Dub out of Bakersfield on this week's Let's Talk Dubs.
You probably don't know that there's a new Volkswagen out that doesn't look like a Volkswagen. It's got everything that people who like the bug like.
Okay, right. So on today's podcast, you just wrapped up One Crazy Weekend, and it has lived up to that. And if you happen to be at One Crazy Weekend 2024, you would see an 80s display. And in that 80s display, there was Future Shock, which was built by Steve Knecht. And then Steve had actually had his car there, and to the other side was Jack Digiacomo's Cal Dub. And if you're not familiar with Cal Dub, you can pull out your Hot VW's magazine and look at Hot VW's 1984.
I think it was August edition.
August edition, 1984, and that's where you'll see the car named Cal Dub out of Bakersfield. So on today's podcast, we've got Jack Digiacomo, Jack Jr., and Steve Knecht on the podcast. So, guys, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Now, to give you guys a little bit of backstory on this, the last time we did this was at the Grand National Roadster Show, where it was kind of a cool time. I think it's the first time, Steve, you and I had met in person, and it's the first time I met the Digiacomo family. And what's interesting is so we were there at the Grand National Roadster Show, and that time specifically was significant because it was cars that were kind of cars that were significant throughout the history of the Volkswagen customization hobby. And so Future Shock was there, CalDub was there, and there's another interesting layer to CalDub because the CalDub saga lives on through your son Jack Jr. who bought the car.
Correct.
So we're going to get down to that point, but the way that we always start the podcast is the same. We ask you, what's your VW story and how did you get into Volkswagens?
So got into Volkswagens through my ex-wife. She had a Volkswagen when we met. She always liked Volkswagens, but I always liked them too. And I really got a fancy for them when I came here on vacation. Came here on vacation from Ohio.
Here to Las Vegas?
No, I'm sorry.
To Bakersfield.
Bakersfield,
okay.
I'm sorry.
No problem. So you're living in Ohio. You come to Bakersfield.
To visit for vacation.
You come to farmland Bakersfield.
Because I was going to make my move out here.
Okay.
So we were trying to make a decision whether or not we wanted to do that. So what happened was there's our mall out there is called Valley Plaza. And we were in the parking lot. And here's this guy with a white Volkswagen with Yosemite Sam painted on the deck lid. I followed this guy around. He pulls over. I'm like, oh, here it is. We're going to get in a fight. Because this guy's probably thinking, why are you following me? And he did. Right. He comes out. He goes, why are you following me? I go, dude, I'm from Ohio. Never seen a cow bug in person. And your car's badass. And he goes, man, thanks. And we started talking. He showed me the car and took me around and everything. So then, now my eyes looking for him. And I'm seeing him everywhere. So I got a liking for Volkswagens early on because I've always been a car guy. And I always had hot rod magazines and older hot rod magazines. And believe it or not, VWs were hot in the hot rod world. Yeah. They were making drag bugs a long time ago. So this isn't new.
But this is in Ohio you're talking about?
Yeah, when I lived in Ohio, growing up as a kid, I had old car magazines. And I still get old car magazines. And I'll go through them. And Volkswagens they had showing you how to build the engines and everything else. And
So you move out to Bakersfield. So now you move out to Bakersfield. You've seen a Volkswagen.
Yes.
Do you go back to Ohio and buy one?
Go back to Ohio because we came here to make a decision. We decided to move out here. My brother was working for a place called Kenworth, and he offered me a job there. So I went ahead and moved out to California. At the time, I had a '66 Chevelle and a '72 Impala, and I towed the '66 Chevelle with the '72 Impala, and my dad and I drove out here. So I drove most of the way, but he was with me. He was like the map. He knew exactly where to go because he did it so many times. Yeah. So anyway, so we got out here, and shortly after we got out here, we saw so many of them that we, decided we want to buy a bug. So there's a guy who was at our club. His name was Mike Whitley. He had a burgundy, a dark, or was it raspberry at the time?
His bug?
His bug when he.
It was a metallic red.
It was a metallic red, beautiful. The car was beautiful. It wasn't finished, but it was beautiful. He had lowered. He had.
That's all you need. Wheels.
Yeah, he had Porsche alloys on it. Porsche alloys, not Fuchs.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Porsche alloys on it, was lowered.
Yeah.
And he worked at a bicycle shop in a plaza. So I went in there and go, hey, who owns this car? And he goes, I do. And I go, man, that car is really nice. And he goes, yeah. And he showed me and he goes, hey, if you're really interested, I'm in a club. It's called VWs Limited. Come to one of our meetings. And I go, okay, we'll do that. So that's how we got into the club. Went to the meeting, decided we wanted to be part of the Volkswagen world, and
now this is, so you're coming from Ohio. So Ohio to California is like a big thing.
Yes.
But like Southern California to Bakersfield is a bit different, right? The people in Southern California look at Bakersfield and think that's like farmland.
Yes.
There's not a bunch of car stuff going on there, but because of the magazines, you guys are seeing what's going on down south. Everybody's being influenced by things that you're seeing. And so you can hop onto that scene pretty quick if you guys kind of get that. So you go to the first meeting for VWs Limited. Yeah. How many people are in this club at this time?
I want to say when I went to that meeting, 20 people were there.
And there's lots of...
And it doesn't mean there was 20 cars, but there was
Right.
20 people in the meeting.
And then how many cars? Because Bakersfield is still fairly small of a scene at the time. How many cars are...
I want to say for sure at least 15 cars, because
15?
we used to have gatherings like picnics and stuff, and we would caravan to the picnic or caravan from the picnic to the park. You know, we would just do different things like that. And we had some nice looking cars, even though they were street cars, they weren't show cars. We had some nice looking cars.
So you come to the show, so you buy this bug.
Yeah. So what happens
year
is
is
I
it?
look for a bug, I find this bug. It's $2,100. Back then that was a lot.
That's a lot of money. Yeah. What year is this? Got to be 82, 83?
Probably 83 when we found it. And so the guy that had it, he actually showed it. He painted it lacquer. Well, all the lacquer was cracking on it, so I had to redo it. But he did the old black and gold theme on it, and I said, I had a '73 Impala at the time that was black and gold. And I said, I ain't gonna do another black and gold.
Right.
I'm gonna go black, but I want to get it into today's,
this was kind of a show car already.
Kinda, yeah.
So
it was lowered already, and it had just chrome wheels on it. No hubcaps. Chrome Steelies. And it had the long rear view mirror in it.
Mirror,
And it's had bug sticker on the windshield.
Yeah.
You know, where it said bug, and it had that on there.
Of course, let everybody know what it is.
Yeah. So then I started.
And then you meet Steve before you buy the car.
Before I bought the car, because he was the president of the club at the time.
Okay. So you meet Steve, and Steve's kind of the guy, because Steve, at the time, you've got Volksworks, you've got your shop going, and at this time, what car by 1983? What cars have you had cars featured that you built, that you had a hand in building, like the one for the guy that owns Bart's Parts? What year was that car featured?
Man, this is the guy. You got the guy that has the steel memory right here. It was just kind of a blur to me.
You're busy huffing paint fumes. I mean, listen, you probably had a rag over your face while you're spraying these cars, so I get it.
Probably.
So.
I don't even know if he had a mask on. I'll be honest with you.
The shirts I seen, he's shirtless out. The pictures I've seen, he's shirtless out there hacking the roofs off of cars and all kind of stuff. So
yeah, I don't know if we'd had cards featured before that.
Not yet.
I think Jack's was probably one of the first ones that I remember that was working towards something besides just a
cool street.
What do you call it? Scuff and shoot.
Yeah, scuff and shoot.
He, it was obvious that he was taking it more seriously, but it would kind of inspired a lot of other cars. I mean, I could give you the list of cars that were featured in the magazine, but I'm afraid I can't tell you this one happened before this one,
right?
Because a lot of times, as you know, you'll get shot for a magazine. It might be 6 months before that particular genre of what the magazine's trying to write before it comes out. Well, in the meantime, I could have built 3 other cars. You know, it's kind of hard to say.
And Steve's car at the time, he had a blue bug with lightning bolts on it, so I used to call it the lightning car.
It's the Magic VW.
Yeah, it was the Magic.
Was that the name? The Magic VW.
What's the license plate said?
Had a whale tail on it.
A whale tail?
Yeah.
It wasn't a whale tail. It was a different kind of tail.
I'm sorry.
I made it.
This is what I remember. I came from Ohio, Steve.
Oh, so it was close to a whale tail.
I called it a whale tail. But it was all, I think, made by Steve.
Yeah.
And I think I seen his car at the shop that I just quit working at, and it's painted red now. It's a red color, because I know his tail was different than anybody else's.
Oh yeah, this thing with the it's got side air intakes on it. And all
I had oil because I ran big motors, and that's how you kept them cooled.
Did those work? Were they functional?
Oh, there was oil coolers inside there to keep the motor cool.
That's Steve.
This guy's always.
Steve doesn't do anything that's not functional.
It's not a prop with this guy.
No, that was there for a reason.
It's
there for a reason. And I know that it was a fast car.
And I mean, you did a full front
spoiler, had a hood scoop on it, had the back, had all electric windows, electric mirrors. All, of course, then I did all my own interior work at that time. It had the graphics on the, like my car now.
Yeah.
The graphics in the interior matched what was on the outside.
I think I've seen your car,
because
I remember your work.
So now you get this car, the paint's cracking. You're like, okay, you know what?
It's got to be done.
What makes it? But this is your only car at the time, or this is?
No, I had the '73 Impala.
So you had a
And
daily driver.
I still had my 66 Chevelle, but it wasn't drivable. No, I actually sold the 66 Chevelle so I could buy the Volkswagen.
Okay, so
It was an SS.
So then you buy this car and you get with Steve and you're like, dude, we got to paint this car.
Yeah, and he's already starting to teach me how to do body work verbally.
Right.
Verbally. He's telling me this is how you do it. This is what you got to do. This is how you have to prep it. And honestly, just from his instructions, that's how I did my body work.
So you're doing your body work at home?
At home.
And then you're going to see Steve like, hey, man, I ran into another problem. I started taking the screw out and everything started.
Yes. There was always something, and he would help me with it. And I was doing this in an alley at 110 degrees outside.
Yeah.
Outside, not in the garage.
So you're doing all
the
that.
reason I didn't do it in the garage is I pulled the body off the chassis, and I painted the chassis blue because I knew the colors I was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that first. Then I started doing the body work. So here I am out there, and I'm going to tell you something. I asked I met the guy who built the car. I said, how many coats of lacquer did you put on that car? He goes, why? I go, because I know it wasn't Bondo that was on those holes that hold the trim.
Right.
It was paint, layers of paint. It was that thick.
Really?
1/4 inch thick.
Paint?
Of paint.
Good grief.
And I know paint and I know Bondo. I didn't get to the Bondo until after I got through the paint.
So you're stripping the car back down, getting ready to paint.
Stripping all down completely.
And you're going to go black with the car, so it's got to be straight.
I got to have it straight. And the roof looked like somebody danced on it.
So you're doing all the prep work. So how long does it take you to get this car to get ready for paint?
6 months, beginning to end.
6 months, start to finish build?
Build.
And now so you get you get Porsche alloys on it?
Yeah, not yet. At that time, I had chromies on it, and I put Porsche nipples on it, which we were just talking about. I don't see them anymore.
Yep.
So I bought Porsche nipples, put Porsche nipples on it. Went ahead. The interior on that car, believe it or not, was black and blue inserts.
Already when you got it?
Already. It was fat, the kits that you would buy back then.
Yeah.
And it had the door panels and all that, but my plans were bigger. I knew I was going to do more than that. So when I did that, went to a car show at Orange County. Mm-hmm. Raceway. Okay. Got first place there.
Would you guys all go to car shows together? All you guys,
Most of the time.
From Bakersfield?
Sometimes it wasn't the whole club, but it was people that were interested. Like my one friend, Darren Nolan, he would come to the car shows all the time. He had an S10. He would follow us to all the car shows. Mm-hmm. And then some of the people from the club would go and show their cars as well.
Because even that drive is, what, 4 hours?
Yeah, 3 hours.
So you got to go down into the valley, and then you go down there, and you're like, all right, I got some ideas. I'm going to wreck this. Because, I mean, I kind of missed those days. Like, you'd walk into a car show like, oh, man, this guy, he put out gas cans.
Yeah.
And he's got one that says air on it. You
know
know what I mean? Because air cooled, oil, gas, and air. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you just see that, and it was all these little nuances. Because back then, it wasn't just a car you were building for a car. Because the cars were one thing. It was also the display as well, right? Like, that was a whole nother level of stuff. So you're going down there seeking inspiration. You see some of this stuff.
So already seeking the inspiration from Hot VWs. So at the time, the car that was hot was Elvira.
Oh,
so
with the Elvira mural on the hood?
Right behind Elvira.
And?
Yeah, and I was like checking it out, seeing all the stuff he did. And it's funny when I think about how velvet interiors were big back then, or velour.
Yeah.
So
soft.
His car was beautiful as far as paint job. The rest of it was okay.
Right.
And nobody at that time was raising cars and showing them. And I don't know if it was just the show or it just hadn't really gotten big yet. Okay. Yeah. I can't remember. But I do know that I didn't have it up. But the guy who did my neon stripes, he made my sign for me. So I had that blue plexiglass sign that Jack still has and put it in front of the car. And then, and then at the time, we had a Dino stuffed animal, and it was the perfect color magenta that matched everything on the car.
Like the Dino, the dinosaur?
Yeah, the dinosaur. So it was a little stuffed animal. We put him on the gas tank. So it was kind of like would draw people there. And man, I tell you what, there was a lot of people looking at that car that day.
So you guys finished the car in 6 months, and when you go to debut the car, what show do you choose to debut the car
That
at?
was it, the Orange County
Raceway.
Raceway.
Orange County Raceway show.
Yes.
The inner shows? Is that the one you're talking about?
No, this is outside.
So
outside
it's an
in the
outdoor
parking
in a
lot.
parking lot.
Yep.
And you tow the car down?
No, I drove to every show. Every show.
So you got the car all finished, engine's
finished.
all chromed, everything's all done, and then you just hop in that car and like, all right, let's go.
Never dropped oil or anything. Never leaked oil or anything. As I would explain a little bit later, as time goes on and I start jacking the car up, I'm driving to all the car shows, all my competitions trailering the car shows. And I would go look at their cars, and I would see oil on their mirrors. Frank Fabosi, who had the strawberry car, his left front fender had a hole in it where they actually rubbed through when they were sanding it or something.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not joking. I would see this stuff and think, okay, now, and he would beat me. He'd get first place and I'd get second. Then we go to Northern California and show there. Kevin Van Horn would get first place and beat me. So it was like, it was me going against their town every time.
And now at this time, Steve, you're in the middle of just building cars. Like
Yes.
you don't have a lot of time for a car for yourself. I mean, when do you finish Future Shock? What year do you finish Future Shock? Because it's featured in '87, so probably
Let's say 87 then.
I want to say
it's
86. It was a couple
86
years
the car's
after
finished.
our car got out on Huffy W's and everything.
And then at the shows, are you going to the shows or you're busy at the shop just
No,
working?
I'd go to the shows with them.
So when you guys are going to shows, what you're following them in your bug, you guys are driving your Volkswagens out there?
Yeah.
No, but weren't you always with Chris in Carmen Gia?
Well, if he was showing at the
Yeah.
time, I was. Yeah.
Yeah, he was showing at the time. So most of the time, Steve was with Chris.
So you guys are it's you guys, it's you, Chris, and this is Chris Addington we're talking about.
right at the
And
time, and we were the two.
Chris is
trailers.
trailering to the shows, or Chris is not driving his.
Correct.
Yeah, because Chris is like
Yeah.
everything's got to be over the top.
Yeah,
Right.
that would have been already when it was looking sort of like that.
Yeah,
Probably
it was without
the
the stripes, without the graphics, and the
So-
interior was different at that
And
time.
when it was featured in the magazine Crystal Blue Persuasion, or the Right Stuff Gear,
Yes.
as everybody just called it because of the movie out at the time, the Right Stuff.
Right.
Had the graphics on it then? In
No,
that feature?
it was all
didn't.
blue.
It was just
'Cause I
solid blue.
remember
Yeah.
looking at the magazine, and it was all blue at that time. Because I forgot that it didn't have the stripes. It actually was blue first. That's when they called it the Right Stuff, and then when it went to this is when they called it Crystal Blue Persuasion.
So you guys are going to car shows together, and
All the time.
What's interesting in that time is because Southern California, I don't think is ready for Bakersfield. I mean, Bakersfield comes out of nowhere, and I mean between your car, then Steve's car, then George Delfino's car, and what other cars am I missing that were out?
Andy's car.
And-
Which
Andy's
is
car.
Dennis Hyde.
That's the Gia,
Right.
Dennis Hyde's car. So
Yeah.
all these cars are going to shows, and you guys are. There's magenta on something somewhere, right? There's
Exactly.
that paint color.
That magenta's
Steve must have had a 55-gallon drum of magenta at Volksworks, and he's like, I got an idea. Let's put some magenta on.
Hey, you know how many cars he actually did? Steve did a lot of cars.
How many cars do you think went through that shop in
He did a
Bakersfield?
lot of cars.
You mean that were featured?
Yeah.
Remember Mike Whitley's Carmen Gia?
Yeah, the one you said is
It
pink,
was-
but no, it was purple. I painted
No,
it.
Mike Whitley's.
Mike Whitley.
No,
had a
I
purple.
thought you were asking about Dennis Hyde's car. But Mike Whitley's car was purple.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I
I thought you were
I was
losing it.
misunderstood when you asked me that the other day. Mike Whitley's car was purple.
Yeah.
Convertible. And it was on the cover of VW Trends, if I remember
Yep.
correctly.
Was that one of the first? So was
He
the
was-
first car featured at Bakersfield? Who's the first one that breaks ground at a Bakersfield?
I want to say me and Chris very close at the same time.
And that's when Chris's car is blue, because Chris gets displayed in like 79 when it's Brown's Gia.
Oh.
Yes.
It's a black
so he would
and
be
white
first.
feature.
So he
but
would
I
be
mean,
the first.
that's really, it's a couple years later till Bakersfield just starts to break out on the scene, and Bakersfield for a couple years was just, you guys would show up at Sacramento, Southern California, and
Everything.
you guys would just
Every
devastate.
show.
Like you guys would. I mean, I remember hearing stories about George Delfino's car, like getting on the trailer, scratch paint. We're going to re-graphic the whole thing in a weekend. You
Yeah.
know?
Well, I'm going to tell you, this guy right here is the reason we're all on the map.
You know.
He's the reason we're all on the map because he's the one that did them all.
So you think how many all-nighters did you guys pull back in those days? Like,
Maybe it would be easier to say how many not
Did we
all
did
nighters.
not? Yeah, I mean,
so and everything was like, hey, we got 2 weeks till the show, so we got to do something wild. How about we
Pull
cut
the body
lead?
off and start over. Yeah.
I mean that's a pretty wild thing to do. I mean, you
well,
got
every show, we got judged. I mean, we got judged with points. So every show, we look at your points and go, okay, I got to work on this, and that's what they're telling you. You need to fix this. So take it apart the next week, get it ready for the show for the weekend, and
now you're telling me
sometimes pulling the engine out if that's what it took.
yeah, and I think you were telling me a story one time that you drove to Sacramento and lost the rear main.
Rear main seal, yeah.
So you're driving to the show,
And
toolboxes,
my
all stuff
friend
in the
Darren
car.
Nolan, who's following me in his white S10, is going, hey, Jack, I'm getting oil all over my windshield. No cell phones. blinking lights, pull
Right.
over, right?
Right.
This is old times, right? So,
Yeah.
so I pulled over and he goes, man, I'm getting some, I think oil. So I open up my deck lid and I'm like, oh my God, are you serious? What was I going to do? I had no choice. I had to drive it. So thank God we were close. We're probably an hour away. So I get to Sacramento, jack the car up, and I am looking for a rear main seal. I said, you know what? I'll get it later. I'm cleaning this whole engine compartment that's all covered in oil.
Ugh.
And won first place and got the best interior.
Really?
Yes.
And at that
And
show,
that was further down. It's probably, I want to say the car had been done for maybe 3 months before the interior. Because I knew what I wanted to do, got with the interior guy, had to get the money, got the money saved up, and said, this is what I want. I had the seats. I bought the seats at a van place, and they were Caros. Okay.
Yeah.
And I said, I want the color to match. And he found the color, did the door panels, did the rear seat, because I wanted the rear seat to look like two Vaqueros.
right.
And that's how he did it. And then, you know, the door panels, the front and rear door panels, I wanted the heartbeat in there. So he put the
Yeah,
heartbeat.
the heartbeat was a big thing in the 80s. The beat groove, or the, you know, going down the windshield and stuff. I mean, and I'm trying to figure out like where that came from, as far as
I like to say I was one of the first people.
Well, but I mean,
Doesn't mean I was.
but what I'm saying was there was a lot of, there was just a lot of, I think it was the times, everything was angular and graphic and like, you know, triangles and whatever you could kind of do to get some sharp angles and stuff. And then I think when, you know, because I remember seeing it all over mini trucks and all that stuff, across the windshields, the beat grooves and all that.
Yeah.
But it's interesting what catches fire at that time where just everybody's doing it, right?
Uh-huh. It is crazy when you think about it.
So you guys are showing the car for a series of times. You know, you're there, and then obviously things change in life,
Yes.
and you win. Your favorite award that you won, or the most notable show that you won, was which one?
Probably that Sacramento show, because I got first place for the class and the best.
And that was in inner shows.
No, that was an exterior show. That was an outside show.
No,
that
but
was
I mean-
also at a drag strip.
That was at a drag strip, like the
Yeah.
Sacramento Bugorama.
Yeah.
Okay,
Or something like that. I can't remember.
You win that.
I can't remember if it was Fremont or Sacramento, but I want to say it was because Fremont's before Sacramento, isn't it? Is it closer?
It's
Fremont
over by the
closer?
coast.
Yeah,
Okay, but I want to say it was Sacramento. It was 5.5 hours. I remember it was 5.5 hours.
yeah.
And,
And
and this is at night. We're driving at night.
and when you beat for best interior, who'd you beat out?
That was Chris.
So you beat Chris for
Yes.
best interior. Now because Chris is older than all you guys. He's about 10 years older than you
Yes.
guys, yeah?
Correct.
And so when you beat Chris is like, all right,
He was pissed off.
he's
I'm just going to be honest. He was
yeah.
pissed off.
No. Well, again,
Totally pissed off.
Again, we had a guy in our club that was about 10 years older than all of us, and we were just kids to him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we're just kids.
Exactly. I was 25 years old. I was a kid.
And it's like, you know, it's
24.
It's interesting, just the dynamics of that, because as a kid, you're just kind of scraping your lunch
Yeah.
money together, whatever you can, to kind
Exactly.
of build these cars,
Exactly.
and do what you got to do. And
Exactly.
so it's interesting.
Like I said, I didn't have a trailer.
And for you,
that's how
it's-
much money
it's
I
like,
had.
It's like a badge of honor just
Oh.
to beat him, right?
Yeah.
Because you're like, yeah, I got him, but I mean, it's a friendly competition, but it's kind of what's going on in the scene.
Yes.
And at this time, so you campaign the car for a couple years, and then what happens to the
And
car?
then the car gets parked because I had my son.
Yeah.
And that was more important. So it just,
Right. When you get kids, they don't have kids. When you have kids, it changes you.
It changes.
It just,
you.
your
Focus is completely
everything
different.
is. All of a sudden, you wake up like, crap! It's not just me. I got to feed this kid too.
Exactly.
All right, I'm gonna put the bug away. I'll
It's
work
not
on
just me. I got to buy him clothes. I got,
Right.
you know, all of that. Diapers. At the time, that was diapers, not
Right.
the throwaway ones.
Yeah.
We had to clean them. And guess what we used those for?
Polishing
Polishing cars.
cars.
Yeah,
Nice and
polishing
soft.
cars because they were so soft.
And so you have Jack Jr. and then you just get into dad mode and start working and becoming
Right.
a parent and a dad and all that stuff.
Right.
And then you see the car sitting, and which you probably love the car, but you're like, you know what? I've grown up now. It's time to let it go.
Not yet. Not yet.
So what?
So
what
Steve builds his car. I help him build his car. Okay.
Right.
Then
Future
do
Shock.
a
We're
lot,
talking about Future
but I helped
Shock.
him build his car.
We're talking about Future Shock.
Future Shock, and he had this plan that he was going to paint on the pan, my car, his car, and Chris Addington's car.
Okay.
For his shop.
Right.
I was so stoked that my car was going to
Right.
be on
Like,
that
oh, man,
pan,
I'm
right?
gonna be on the car.
So help him do that. Chris's car is still blue at the time, doing good. He had already built Delfino's car, and this is, I want to say 88, if I'm not
I
mistaken.
mean, Delfino's car is almost a car that bridges a gap between mini trucks and Volkswagens.
Yes, I agree with that 100%.
You know, I think because the Roadster look and the tonneau cover on the back, I mean, it kind of, it almost, if you didn't know, you'd kind of think it was you'd almost think it was a mini truck. You know what I mean? And I think that's an interesting thing that happens in that scene, which it's like, that car, I believe would appeal to both mini truckers and Volkswagen people. You know, so Delfino's car is done.
Dennis,
it wasn't done at that point yet. No,
Delfino's car is like a year, like 88. Right?
Yeah, it had to be 88.
It was probably it was the squareback with the graphics, but it was a regular squareback still at that time.
And what's crazy, I don't even remember this. I had to go back and look at the magazine with squareback with the graphics because it was kind of my speed. It had 415s in it, or 212s, 215s, and like it was a base machine, and I was like, yeah, it's my style right there.
Yeah.
And so
and Dennis Hyde's car was done.
Yeah, Dennis
so they
Hyde's
were
car.
all showing together around that time. So I said, you know what? I got to do one more show. Well, they had one of the shows for the Show for Gold, which was what we were into at the time.
What was the Show for Gold at the time?
Show for Gold was you go to every show, and every show that you won or got second place or third place, you got points. And at the end of the show, you won money.
Season.
At the end of the season, you won money. So the first year that I did it, I got third place. I want to say Kevin Van Horn got first and Frank Fabosi got second. I got third. So third place, I got a set of Delordos and some other stuff. Pretty cool, you know. But I wanted more than that because you just wanted to beat. I lost against a car that was painted white. I'm sorry, that's not right. Sorry, white wasn't right in this point. So it's just the way I felt. But it's your car, and that's how you're gonna feel. You know what I mean? So
you think how hard is it to paint a car white? Right, that's what you think.
Right. Well, how hard? Yeah,
as hard as any other.
And it
color.
had graphics on it. It had candy apple graphics on it. It wasn't that it was a bad car.
But
it's just a white.
Right,
it was white.
Yeah.
It wasn't fair to me because this is a lot easier to hide white than it is black. So, anyways, after that we showed for a little bit, and that's when I stopped showing. So the Show for Gold was still going on. So it was coming to Bakersfield to a Famoso drag strip. So I was excited. I go, man, this is my backyard. I'm going to do some more stuff to it. So the shroud did not have the graphics in it.
Right.
Took it all apart. Had the graphics done. Steve did it for me.
Yeah. Now, Steve, you're like an airbrush guy.
No, I'm not. But I was as close as you could get at the time.
Wait. You were airbrushing cars. This is like in the time when airbrushing was fairly new. I mean, because I remember that in the 80s, you go to a t-shirt shop, like, we can airbrush that. Like, what? What is this? And they're like,
exactly.
Okay. I look at the graphics that I did with an airbrush, and then I look at Elvira. No, I'm not an airbrush
That's
guy.
What, yeah. He didn't do murals, is what he's trying to say. But he still did airbrushing.
You can do a line, then add a white stripe to make it look like it's shiny.
Like a neon.
But
I figured that out.
But I mean, you started figuring out like the airbrushing techniques and things like that. So you take the fan shroud off and like, okay, listen, we got to add some graphics to the engine compartment.
I put that graphics on there. Got rid of the metal
tubes,
metal air tubes, and I went and got PVC. Actually, the tubing for electrical.
Yeah.
And the curve was really close, so I did that. Put some clamps on it. Had painted those blue, and I couldn't drive it because they weren't going to stay on. It was for show. Okay, so Steve towed Chris's car there first. Then he towed Future Shock there. Then I borrowed the truck and the trailer and brought my car there. So it was looking.
So that these cars are perfect. No dirt on them, nothing.
It's
roll in.
Famoso, and there's lots of dirt.
It's like being in Vegas.
Yeah.
It's a half a mile dirt road to get to.
But,
so you got the
But
car.
I'm telling you, we were a club to be reckoned with. We had 4 cars there that day. 4 cars.
And did a lot of people show up from Southern California and Sacramento to that show?
I want to say yes. There's people from all. Oh, and you know what other car was there? The Volkswagen that flipped up that got stolen. It got stolen that weekend after that car show.
What is it called? It's called.
And it was painted a different color. It was orange when we saw it.
Chris wasn't at that show.
Oh, he wasn't at that show?
No, that was the show that the Future Shock got best of show because Chris wasn't there.
Oh, okay.
No, that's not true. That car got best of show, and then I got everything else.
Yeah. Well, no, he got People's Choice.
Yeah,
That's what he got.
Spellbound or Top Gun.
Yeah.
Top Gun was
Yeah,
called.
it had two different names.
So
Yeah.
I mean, that's another interesting car that
Yeah,
I'd
it
like
was
to track the story on that, because there's a real mystery in that car where he was doing raffle tickets for the car. He was going to raffle it
Yeah.
off, and then the car mysteriously had gotten stolen, and was found later in a false room in a garage.
So it was found. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, it was at the '80s meet back in 2019 at the Prado show with the wicker interior inserts.
What?
Well, at that
That's
time,
interesting.
that car was at the same level that Rodbuster is.
Oh yeah, that was a
Yeah.
beautiful car.
It was
that was a gorgeous car.
It was a built showpiece. Really had not very much
Not for
Volkswagen.
driving.
Didn't really have much Volkswagen influence other than sort of a body. But I mean, the chassis was
tubular. I think.
it was an all tubular.
It was
chassis.
all tubular chassis. It's
Yeah.
a beautiful,
It's a
car
beautiful
though.
And it was so cool because you could just lift the whole body off to clean the undercarriage.
Yeah,
Make it easier.
you didn't have to crawl under it.
So you guys show up at Famosa.
Yeah.
They bring and this is part of the Gold series, the
Yes.
Johnny Speed and Chrome
Yes,
show for the Gold or
show for
whatever.
gold. I think that was actually the last year they stopped after that.
And then you go and Bakersfield cleans up over there.
Yeah,
right?
I got first place, and the guy that Kevin Van Horn, who was still doing the show for gold, was pissed.
Is Kevin Van Horn? He is the.
The white bug.
Oh, that's that bug. Is that
Is
bug?
it that one? Is it? Okay.
Wow.
I wasn't sure.
Well, I'll
See,
track
but if
down
you
this-
look, there's
I'll
no
track
graphics
down,
on
I'm
it.
going to track down your nemesis.
Yeah.
Kevin Van Horn.
So he
in the 80s
Is he on the page?
on the Facebook page.
yeah.
I'm gonna have to check it out. Yeah.
So he was pissed off, like mad, right? He goes to the judges, he goes, how the hell can you give him first place, blah, blah, this and blah, blah, that, right? And at the time, the guy who did interiors was the guy that did the magazine that sell cars. What was that called? Camerads. There's a guy, I can't remember. I think
Kevin
it's-
Barut,
was it
Scott Barut.
Yeah, Scott Barut. He was the interior guy, right? And he come over and he goes, man, Jack, this Kevin Van Horn's really pissed off because I gave you more points than him, and it's the reason why you won. You beat him by 2. I'm like, yeah, good. That's what I said. Yeah, good. I'm glad I did. He goes, would you be mad if I took it away? I said, if you take it away, I'll tell everybody what a piece of crap magazine you have and everything. I said, you better not take this from me. I worked hard to get this car.
So this guy
here.
was arguing so bad
Oh,
to win.
he was. You know
What?
why he was mad? Because
Why?
it screwed up his points. And you know what? He came over and said something to me. He goes, man, you screwed up my points. I go, hey, welcome to my life. You did it every time I came to your town.
Yeah.
Because you know what? I'm a nice guy till you push me there.
Right.
And then when he tried to take that away from me, I said, no. Now you're in Bakersfield, buddy, and you lost in Bakersfield. That's what I told him. And I'm going to go up there and I'm going to hug that girl when she hands me the trophy. And that's what I did. And that's exactly what I did. He was so
But
mad.
when you guys would show up at
And I'm
places,
sorry if you're listening, Kevin.
Yeah.
It wasn't nothing personal, but you made it personal. I didn't make it personal.
Well, this.
I just
this-
wanted to win a first place.
This is how tense the show circuit
Oh,
was
yeah.
back then.
It
At the
was.
Grand National Roadster Show, I was personally witness to, as I'm there in Future Shock, and I pull in and I see Stanley Escalano
Yeah.
go to talk to Paige Proctor, and there was this real tension there because of show stuff back in the day. Because
Was Paige Proctor suicidal tendencies?
suicidal tendencies, yeah. And
Oh, that I can see those two clashing.
And so
I can see that.
Stanley
Totally
shows
can
up like,
see that.
"Hey, buddy, good to see you." Whatever.
Right,
and
right.
He was just like, "Get away from me!" Like they still had beef from show days.
No kidding.
Yeah, and I was like, I was pretty surprised to see it, but it just underscores that the show circuit was so serious back then that people were spending all their weekends, all their nights getting
Yes.
ready for the show, doing these little extras, pulling all nighters, doing all this, and to only get blown out by 2 points.
Well, that's funny that you brought this story up because I went and talked to Paige when we were at the
Roadster
Yeah,
show?
Roadster Show. I go, hey, man, how you doing? And I go, I'm the guy that has the black car. He goes, oh, hi. He wasn't that friendly, I'll be honest.
Now he's-
And then I go, did you miss those days? He goes, I don't miss them at all. I mean, he was like
Yeah.
blunt. He goes, I don't miss them all. Taking all his time, showed this car, and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, sorry I asked. I didn't know that he
well-
hated it so badly. I mean, I'll be honest. My butt was hurt not getting first place,
Yeah.
but I had a nice car and I had a good time.
When you walk
people
away,
walking
you
up
still
and
have a
telling
nice
me how
car.
nice the car
Right.
was and taking pictures and oh my God, I've seen this in the magazine, you know. And even then, it was hard to believe that people were coming and telling me that, you know. And then to hear it now after all these years, because a lot of people take pictures and just walk by. It's just a car show, right? Hey, I like that car. I take pictures. But then to hear it later that, oh my God, this car influenced me and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, wow, really? I just built a car for me and to
Yeah.
show it, you know? I just wanted to have a nice car. And I gave up. I wanted to build a 66 Chevelle. Then that's the car that I sold. It was going to be my show car. So I made this bug into my show car. It was smaller. It was a little bit easier. So I put my flair in it. I wanted it to be Jack's car.
And that's theirs, is an
Yeah.
extension of us. And
Yeah.
so is that the last show you show it? Is the one in Bakersfield?
That was it. That was my final show.
And you're like, okay, enough of this. I beat this guy.
Right.
And now I'm going to go back to being a dad. I got to
Yeah,
kind of put this stuff away.
exactly.
It's perfect. It's finished. I'll just kind of leave it. You have this vision that you're going to drive it on the weekends, all this stuff, and it just
Right.
starts sitting in the garage or
And,
what?
and then, yeah, it sat in the garage. And fast forward, I moved back to Ohio. Okay. So then,
I don't know why anybody would ever move back
I
to
know.
Ohio.
I don't want to talk about it.
I've never been there.
Yeah.
But
You don't
I-
want to be there.
The pictures I
Too
see.
much snow,
yeah.
too much
I
humidity,
just remember the
too much
from
rain.
WKRP, the little cutaways that they did in the intro of that.
So
Look
we
it up,
find
guys.
out
Look it up.
in the newspaper, because we didn't have social
Right.
media back then, there's a Volkswagen show at a drive-in movie theater.
In
So I'm
Ohio.
like, in Ohio. I'm like, we're going. So I get the car cleaned
These guys
up.
have never seen Cal Dub. It's time to give them
Yeah.
some Cal Dub.
So, dude, I took every award.
Yeah.
Best interior, best engine, best paint, first class, first in my class. I walked home with 4 trophies that day.
Right.
Everybody in that whole show. This car is beautiful. This car is beautiful. It's just crazy because I didn't even know there was a Volkswagen scene in Ohio because
Yeah.
you never saw them, right? And then the other show I did in Ohio is the Hot Rod Nationals. I took it there, and guess who was at that show?
Who?
Shanna Ray.
Oh,
And
really?
she goes, "What are you doing in Ohio?" I said, "I don't know." She started laughing. Shanna's who I hugged, by the way, when I got first place in Bakersfield.
yeah.
So that was just kind of neat to see her there. And
So
you know.
you're in
But it was a
Ohio.
hot rod show.
Yeah.
People just walk past that bug.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I had it displayed too. I even had it jacked up and everything. But
And so you're now in Ohio, showed a couple shows, and then life starts to change. And
life starts to change. I end up
you put it up for sale?
Well, I ended up going through divorce, and I needed the money, so sold it for $4,500. But I got offered 10 for it when I lived in Bakersfield.
Right. I'll give you 10,000. Like,
No,
no, I have
no.
enough money to buy my car, sucker.
Yeah,
Like,
you ain't got enough money to buy this, Then I'm giving it away for $4,500.
right. So you sell
Sold it to a guy who owned a German repair shop close
and it
to
was
my
still
house.
done. Like it was still a
Still done.
finished car.
Finished car. He drove it. I would see him drive it once in a while, but not often. And then one day he drove by my house. He pulled in my driveway and goes, "Dude," he says, "I work on this is a lot of money back then. I work on $100,000 cars every day.
It's a lot of money
That bug
today.
puts them to shame."
Yeah.
He said, "You built that car so well. It rides good. It stops good.
I'll
it
see ya."
does everything."
Drives off.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Yeah.
she's leaving.
Yeah, it's leaving. So then they put a newspaper article out, right?
Yeah.
Of the car,
Of your car?
of my car, in the Akron Beacon Journal, which is the main paper there, right?
Right.
And I told him, put it out on anything. You better give me the credit for it. He goes, "I promise." And they plastered his name all over it, said he built it and everything. I called him. I go, "Listen, you son of a bitch. You told me." He goes, "Look, dude, I begged the guy from the newspaper to do it. He wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
He would not put your name in there."
Yeah.
He said he wanted to give me the credit. I go, "That's bullshit. Because
Yeah.
I'm the one that built that car. I should get credit for it." He goes, "I'm sorry." And
So
I said,
even
"Okay."
after she's gone,
We're
you're
okay.
still getting
After he
words.
told me that, I'm like, it's not his fault. But he told me, so I begged him. He said, "I absolutely begged him to put your name in there, and he would not. He wouldn't even look at your name."
And so since then, since you got rid of the car, did all that stuff, did you ever build another show car after that?
No, that was I bought my '66 Chevelle was the most recent thing, and I showed that. But it's a 25,000 mile original car.
It's a driver.
It's the
Yeah.
driver, but it's going to become show. It's going to be full show,
And
but it's going to be factory show.
And now
Yeah.
we fast forward to how many years later, and so this is when Jack Jr. kind of comes in. So
Yes.
Jack, so
Oh wait, I got one more thing to
Go
say.
ahead.
Before I moved back to California, I got a phone call from some guy.
Wait a second. So
Yeah,
you're
so
going to Ohio, and you're
now-
back to California.
Now I'm back. So this is where I'm at
Back
right
to
now.
where?
Bakersfield.
Okay, so back
Okay.
to Bakersfield.
Back to Bakersfield,
All
right.
right.
Got hair up my butt. I had to leave. I wanted to be with my son. I said, he's growing up, and I'm not
And your
gonna,
son was in
I'm not going to
Bakersfield.
be able to see my grandchildren or nothing. I said,
Right.
I have to move. That's all there's to it. So I was married at the time. Told my wife at the time, we're moving to California, and she was not happy. So I did it anyways. I was moving regardless. If it meant I was getting a divorce, it meant I was getting a divorce because I wasn't going to miss the rest of my son's life. I wasn't
Right.
going to do it. It was that important to me. So move back out to California. But before I do, I get this phone call, and the guy goes, "Hey, is this Jack?" You know, I can't say my name right. Digiacomo. And I go,
Digiacomo.
yeah, and I go, yeah,
we
this
had
is
that
Jack
yesterday.
Digiacomo. Actually, Digiacomo. He goes, "Oh, I'm sorry." He goes, "Well, I bought your car." I go, "You bought my car?" And he goes, "Yeah, so and so. I can't remember his name. The guy that had the shop
Right.
sold it to me." And I said, "Oh, really?" I said, "How much did you pay for it?" He goes, "I paid $10,000. I'm like,
Right.
you know, joking. He goes, "I paid 10." I go, "Yeah, figures." He goes, "I'd like to get some history on the car. Can I come and see you?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Just so you know, you ever want to drive the car, you can drive it anytime you want. You can borrow it. You can do whatever you want, because I'm just really blown away how you built this car." Right? So he pulls in my driveway, and I'm getting sick to my stomach. The engine looked like shit. The interior looked like shit. It was still nice, but I can already see
Nothing's been
the
kept up.
quality's going down, right? And
Are
I'm
you the
like,
kind of guy that had special shoes when you drove it?
I
And
put
like-
sheets on the seats when I drove it, and towels on the floor.
Yeah.
So yeah,
All
yes,
right.
okay,
You're that guy.
yeah, I'm that guy.
Yeah. Well, I christened the Gia by driving it from my brother's shop to here, and Bob Daniels sweat all over the interior of
Yeah.
it. So
That's what ruined the seats in,
yeah. Yeah.
Jack's
Thanks,
car.
Bob. Thanks. Shout out to Bob Daniels for
Yeah,
leaving his DNA all over the interior of my new build. But
that's why I put the sheets on there, because I
Yeah,
knew
but
the
it
sweat
was-
would ruin it. You know, so
was
that's
hot.
what I did,
It was,
and it
yeah.
always looked brand new. So
Well,
that's why.
mine
Now, when
were-
I was sitting, I didn't have nothing on it, but when I drove it, I always put something on the seats, so that always looked nice.
So he tells you. If
He tells you want to do it, so he comes over. He wants my pictures. I have my photo album, and he copied all my pictures and gave me back the photo album. Not the same way I gave it to him, but it's okay.
So you're to say you're particular. Is
I'm
an
particular,
understatement.
yes. So I move, right? And she's like, yeah. My wife is agreeing. My new wife. So make sure we got that right. So anyway, so I moved to California. I get divorced again because she doesn't want to move out. So Jack keeps asking me, "Dad, you have that guy's phone number. Can you find it? I want to try to get a hold of him." Yeah, I'll look for it.
And what year is this?
This is, I moved in 14. I moved here in 2014. I want to say by 2016. He's already bugging me about
Now,
it.
Junior, do you remember the car at all?
Absolutely.
He
I
rode.
mean, I had so many memories in that car.
Really?
It was- yeah.
Just when you were young.
Yeah.
He,
I remember when we even moved it back to Ohio, one of the shows we took it to, we got it ready, and we polished everything the night before.
Yeah.
And the next morning comes, and it's pouring rain, because it's Ohio. It's the worst place ever. And I literally go to my room, and I am crying in my closet, because we're not going to the car show with the Volkswagen. And I convinced my mom
Because he
and
won't
dad.
drive it.
No,
His
I
dad's
won't
like,
drive it.
it's
The car
raining.
doesn't
We ain't
That
drive.
car
We
never
don't-
saw
this,
rain.
This car doesn't go in the rain.
It saw rain because we drove it that day. We ended up going to the show. I was devastated. I love that car.
It was
Like,
the-
it's
it was the
finally
one
our
that I got
time
all
to
the
drive
trophies.
it, Dad. Can I not sit on a towel? No, stay on the towel.
Definitely stay on the towel.
Don't give Bob Daniels a ride.
He'll give me his DNA. I don't want it. Maybe I do in case he kills me. No, I'm just kidding. But no, that's very true. So I mean, I would not drive that car. You know why? You know why? You know what it was? Wasn't going to ruin the car. Jack had to get underneath that thing and clean it.
Right.
I had enough of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You want it to stay clean.
But the sad point is Ohio with the humidity and everything. When Jack got it back, stuff that was chrome was
It's all dilapidated and pitted.
it was rusted away.
So now, how's the story? So you call it. So now you're an adult, Jack Junior. We're talking to Junior now. Now you're an adult, and you said, you're like, Dad, you got this guy's number. I want the car because you're having these memories of this pristine vehicle that's
Of course. right.
built of unobtainium, has never felt the skin of a human on its seats. And you're like, I'm gonna get this car back, and it's gonna be perfect. and things are awesome. So what's the process of you tracking this guy down and doing that?
So my dad said, Dad, you got this guy's number. You got to find it. And of course, he doesn't do anything digital, so he's got notebooks.
I got
Hold on a second.
It's written down. It's written on a piece of paper somewhere.
So I'm like,
Let's get the phone books.
Do you understand why I didn't go looking for it?
Yeah. I finally, I give up, and I said, all right, I've got to find this car. I now have my own kids, so I'm like, I want this.
It's a legacy
sort of
thing,
legacy.
right? Yeah.
And my wife grew up with Volkswagen. We still have her first car. It's a '69 Bug, and I'm like, we got to get this car. And so I put on the Samba, and I make a post with some pictures, and hey, this car was last seen in Ohio. Trying to find it if anyone has any information on the owner. This guy writes me back within a few hours. Absolutely, my dad worked on that car in his shop about 2 years ago. I'll go back, and I'm going to go back and look in his shop and find the invoice. I'll send you the number. Sure enough, next day, he kept his word, and he sends me a picture of the invoice with this guy Mike's phone number on it. So I call him that day. I'm just freaking out.
So what do you say to this guy? Hey,
hey, this is Jack Digiacomo Sen, who built the car. And he's like, oh my God, I was thinking about your dad in the car, and I haven't heard from him. And I'm like, yeah, lost your number, but I want the car. He's like, yeah, I don't want to sell it. So that was it. It was like, no, I'm not selling it.
Yeah, it's not
for
sale.
If I ever do, stay in touch. I'm definitely going to give you the first right of refusal. I'm like, I'm telling you, I'm going to buy this car. Like, I have to have it. He's like, yeah.
I don't think you understand. Did you hear the
Yeah.
last
No,
name?
you don't understand.
Digiacomo.
Yeah. Like, I
It's
will
Italian.
have this car.
This is Italian. Do you understand me?
Yeah, exactly.
Are you paying attention?
Do the right thing
Are you
here.
reading me?
We talk with cotton in our mouths, so yeah.
So he's like, no, stay in touch. And he's an older gentleman. I would say he's probably in his 70s
Tip
at the
that
time.
mic back a little bit.
And
Yeah, 10 times better.
he goes, all right, stay in touch. So I'm going to go out to visit
You
my...
say he's in his 70s
Yes.
that owns the car at the time?
Yep.
Okay.
So
and he's now the third owner?
Well, third owner since I built it.
Since you built it,
Because
right.
the guy
Yeah.
I bought it from an old lady
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something. It was a nice car.
But third owner since it was a
Yeah.
finished show
Correct.
car.
Yeah.
So I get the guy's number. I stay in touch with him, and my mom still lives in Ohio, so I'm gonna go visit her, and I give him a call. Hey, Mike, I'm gonna come to Ohio. Can I see the car?
I just want to see the car.
I just want to see the car.
I want to see that family
So
heirloom.
he's like, absolutely, and gives me his address. Ends up living like 15 minutes from my mom's house, so like super awesome. He's like, hey, I'll meet you in a parking lot because I kind of live up in this mountain. It's kind of hard to find. Sure enough, he does. And my mom and I go over there, meet up with him. He's like, all right, come up here. We follow him up to his house. And he goes in the house and opens the garage. And I'm just in tears. I haven't seen the car in 20 years.
Yeah.
No, at this point, it's
And the
like
last
24
time you
years.
saw it,
It was
perfect.
Yeah, and it was it was a rough time because they sold the car. My parents were getting divorced.
Right,
So
so
it
it's
was just
It's weird
a lot of-
memories.
a
a
lot
lot of
emotions.
memories and stuff going through my head. So he pulls it out, and as excited as I am, it just like kind of my dad said, it doesn't look like it used to.
You're a
Like,
little mad.
I'm a little like, oh,
What'd
it's
you do to my
dirty.
car? What'd you do to my dad's
It's
car?
dusty,
Not
the-
polished.
My
The
dad was
alloys
here.
were
The alloys
almost
were
brown.
silver,
They
not
were
chrome.
so faded and not polished, but it still sounded the same as I remember it.
Yeah.
Everything was there. The smell, like, it was just
Yeah.
a surreal experience. So he's like, "Do you want to drive it?" And I'm like, "Hell, yeah, I want to drive it." I sold it when I was 9, so I never got to drive the car.
Right.
So he hands me the keys, and my mom and I take it for about 10, 15 minutes. And we're just driving it around Ohio, and I'm out of my mind. So I'm like, okay, I'm going back, and we're gonna buy this car right now. So I go up to the guy, give him the keys. I'm like, all right, Mike, I'm buying the car. Like, what do you want? He's like, I told you I'm not selling the car. He would not sell me the car.
Really?
Would not sell it. I'm like, Mike, I'm gonna go to the bank. I will get cash right now. I want this car. Like, he's like, I'm telling you no. He's like, I'm not. I love
Now,
this car.
does he have other cars or just this car is like
This
his
is
little
one
fun car?
Showcar.
He, was
Yep. And
he worked at a
chose-
car dealership.
and he loved this car.
Don't tell me somebody traded it on a Hyundai.
Right? No. So that's it, man. I go
He
home
says
just
no.
completely defeated.
Sorry.
I just like,
I'm not selling it. If I ever decide to sell it, I'll call
Yep.
you. That's what he says.
Exactly. So
How long's he owned it for?
he ends up 13 years. So
It's interesting. I had a car that I built, and I had it from. It was my show car that I started I drug it out of the junkyard in '92, sold it in '96 because I was angry. Just recently found it online. I sent the guy a message. I'd like to buy that car back. He's like, no. I'll let you know if I like to sell it. He says, but, and this was the dilemma I had, right? He said, I said, yeah, I built that car and I'd like to buy it back. He says, well, I've had the car for the last 20 years. I've got a lot of memories with this car. And I'm thinking, this is my car. I built that car. Like, how can you have memories with my car? But I'm thinking, I was just the boy. She was my girlfriend at the time, and now he married her. Like, and I'm like,
Yeah,
you
right.
know what I mean? I'm
he's had her longer than you had her, so
And
it
that's-
really has more memories in it than you do.
and that's the part where I was a little bit conflicted. And so, are you kind of wrestling with that at the same time? Like,
And since you brought that up, he brought it to my attention. I owned it the least time.
Yeah.
The two people that owned it after me had it for longer than I did.
Both gentlemen
Yeah.
that owned it
Same as
after-
you.
Yeah.
Exactly the
And so-
same as you.
and so you're
but we
thinking in your
built
head.
the car. You know what I mean? I know every inch of that car. He has no clue what that car has in it. And the guy that he got the phone number from was supposed to fix the electrical on it. Oh my God.
yeah.
I
Don't
mean,
even get you started.
My car was meticulously done. All the wiring is perfect. They chopped into my wiring. I was going nuts when I was fixing it. I'm like, what the hell?
So you're the guy that has
you know
the
what
wires
problem
that
was?
go
They had a bad ground.
like-
Oh yeah, they had a bad ground, and they freaking completely changed the wire going to the turn signal. I'm like, oh my God.
So
Anyways.
this is what year that you drive the car?
This is 2018.
Oh, so 18. So you take digital
2018.
pictures, all this stuff
Yeah,
while you're there.
so
Send them to dad.
I've got videos and everything.
And what does
so I
dad
can-
do? You start bashing his head against the wall when
Yeah.
he sees
Yeah, I don't
the
think he
picture.
sent me anything. He just told me where it drove.
He goes directly
Oh, he
to
did
auto
take pictures.
parts.
He had pictures in front of his barn or garage
Yeah.
or whatever it was.
So I stay in touch. I call this guy every 6 months, just check in on him.
Hey, how you doing? Things good? How's the family? Yeah, the car outside.
How's your health?
You ready to sell yet?
And he's like-
are you dying yet?
Yeah, I'm like, gosh, this guy. So 2020 comes around,
COVID.
and COVID hits, and we're just sitting around the house staring at each other, me and the wife and the kids. And like, yeah, it's like April, and we're about a month or two in now, and I'm like, I need like a big life change, right? So I'm like, I gotta get the car. So I call him, and I'm like, plus COVID, people are getting sick. Like, what if something happens to this gentleman?
Right.
And the car just disappears.
Yeah.
Kids sell it, who knows?
Close enough, right?
Right.
You're close enough to close this deal. You got to close the deal.
Yeah. So I call him, and he's like, you know what, man? I'm actually, COVID. I'm in the middle of remodeling my house, and I could use the money. However, I need one more summer with the car because you can only drive these in Ohio for
Right.
2 months out of the year, right?
Yeah, yeah,
It's-
yeah.
It's either
Maybe.
too hot and humid or it's cold and raining.
Yeah.
So
Maybe.
he's like, I'm like, all right, I'll let you have it for the summer. And he's like, call me beginning of fall and come pick it
So
up.
now you're excited. Now I don't know if you're sensitive to discussing because in my head I'm thinking, well, what he has, what does he have to charge you to get it back? Like what? Because this is the guy that bought. So he bought. Anyway, do you care to discuss any of that? Because that's a
I
big
will,
thing.
and so at this point, I don't even
You don't
think
even
about it.
know.
I'm so,
You just want the car.
so out of my mind.
You're like, I'll pay 5
Like,
times what it's
I
worth.
don't care. I need to get it, and as long as it's
Well,
as long as I
with
can
you.
afford it.
The guy that I was on that I text on Facebook when I text him pictures, he's like, I said, I have several cars. I will trade you a car for this car, and it's just one of these things where it's like there's this connection you have with the car that you built. It's like when you get to the point like I want it back, you're like, no, I'll trade you something worth more than that car for that
Right.
car because of the sentimental value. So in your head, you're like, I don't care what he asked
Yeah,
for.
like, I'm gonna figure it out.
Right,
you know?
and you're thinking he can't ask that much for the car, whatever. So
And that's at the same point too. And then he does mention to me, he goes, you know what I really want is a 32 Ford. I'm like, okay, we might be out of my level
Yeah.
here because this
Yeah,
is not a
we're-
32 Ford car.
correct, right.
So I'm like, oh yeah, I mean, I live in California. I'll keep an eye out. But he's like, you know what? No, I just want to get the cash. I want to work on my house. So I call him beginning of October.
The end of summer, engine smoking, ran it out of oil.
It's like God knows what he's done. And I said, all right, Mike, I'm ready to
Let's
buy
do
the
this
car. And he
deal.
goes, all right, man, I'm ready. I'm ready to do it. I need the cash. I've had my time with it.
Right.
I'm like, all right, what do you want? He goes, I just want what I have in it. And I'm like, well, what do you have in it? He's like, well, I had to take it to the shop and da-da-da, and I had to have the carbs
And
too.
is this the guy that bought it for $10,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I ended up paying $13,000 for it.
Now, again,
No,
this
I'm
is
sorry. It was $11,500.
That's what you paid for it?
He literally had
Yeah,
$1,500 in the car
You
after
did
he
good.
paid 10, and it's all he wanted it. So
11,500.
11,500.
But now you're buying a car that needs to be completely gone through. I mean,
I didn't know that at the time. I thought it was.
He had rose-colored glasses on.
Yeah,
And just, you
I'm
know.
just like,
Right,
it
you
just
were-
needs to be
you're-
polished.
It's
no
like the
matter
end of the
what
night
you're
at the
looking
bar.
at.
That's what he saw.
That's
He
right.
saw
Yeah,
a pretty
right,
girl.
I had no idea what I was getting myself into, but it didn't matter.
Right. So you get the car, and that's a fair price for. It's a really fair price for a piece of family history,
is.
the significance of the car to your family. Not to mention, hopefully you can salvage whatever. So
Exactly.
you arrange shipping, or you fly back there and
So,
personally handle the car.
My mom still lives there, right? So I call my mom, like, Mom, I'm gonna wire you money. Just take the guy cash. She's like,
Right,
"That's what we
but-
agreed
Right
on."
away.
Get the car.
Right.
Get
Yep.
the
And
car.
then you get the car because he lives up in this sort of mountain area, and it would have been hard for a transporter up there. So my mom gets it. She lives on a nice long flat road.
Yeah.
So she goes and gets the car. She has it for a couple of days, so she's happy. She gets to see
And
it.
she's driving out. She drove Volkswagens before.
Mhm.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. She
yeah.
drove that car.
Yeah, my mom.
She'd drive it to the grocery store.
Yeah.
When we had it.
Yeah, my mom drove it all
How
the
can she
time.
drives to the grocery store with shoes off and sitting on a towel?
She had towel.
She had to wear a bathrobe. But she
Yeah. New clothes. They had to be ironed and everything. No, just kidding.
So she's super happy. She gets to see it for a few days, parked in the garage. And I got some friends. I start calling them like, hey, I need a transporter. So my buddy's like, hey, I got a guy, he's a friend, and they do exotics though. And I'm like, all right, is the price fair? Yeah, the price is fair, and doesn't charge any more than anyone else. So this guy shows up, this black truck, black trailer, just very nice.
super high
Was it a
end.
closed
Like,
trailer?
Super enclosed.
yeah, like you're
Closed,
getting
yeah.
a
I was like,
I thought it
Lamborghini.
was.
You know,
The neighbor's like, he must have got a Lamborghini. What's he got in that thing?
funny story. So 4 or 5 days go by, right? They call me, hey, we're going to be in Bakersfield in the next 4 to 6 hours. I'm like, great, I'll be home. I'm shaking.
I
Right?
can imagine.
The truck pulls up on my street, and
And
the
you're-
first
it's
car
like
that
a-
comes out is a Rolls Royce Wraith with
Really?
the suicide door
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
convertible drop top, right? And my neighbors are like, they start texting me like, "What are you buying? like, this is insane. Who
You
are
won't know.
you?
You won't know that I hit the
How
lottery,
Yeah.
but
much
you'll
do
know.
you make a year?
I'm like,
Are
no.
you selling
I'm like,
drugs?
just wait, you know. And then here comes out a Lamborghini, and there comes the bug.
The big like, wah, wah.
Yeah, I was like, but you
it
don't
wasn't
understand to
shiny
me,
and pretty.
and it was like it meant more to me than all those other cars, right?
Yeah,
So
most definitely.
I get it off the trailer, sign the paperwork, the guy leaves, and then like the reality set in. I'm like, oh, it was in horrible shape.
Like,
It's
what
just-
did I pay for?
Yeah.
You open the door won't
The
shut.
car barely ran. The doors, like, luckily, you know, mostly mechanically it was okay. It just didn't run well. It was
It just
turned-
needed TLC. It just wasn't taken care of. It
It
was
was
sad.
leaking oil.
He,
It was
I
so-
went over, so I was so excited, right? I'm up
Right.
here, right? As soon as I was excited, so I was like way up here,
Yeah.
and as soon as I walked in the garage, I went down like
Yeah.
really fast. I'm like,
Well,
my
you're excited to see
baby,
the car. Yeah, excited
right?
to
My
see the car.
baby. What did this guy do to my baby? I look underneath. There's oil everywhere. I never had oil everywhere on that car ever, and I was like, oh my god! I was just like. I was biting my tongue because I just wanted to lash out, you know.
So to what extent did the car need to be preserved, restored, or redone?
So, you know, that's where, in his defense, he gets pretty upset
Yeah,
about
bring
this.
this
But
up.
the car was original. Like,
Yeah,
the guy didn't ruin it, so I gotta
He
give him
didn't
credit.
chop. He didn't chop it up.
There's
Right.
it was literally almost 26 years to the day that he sold it. I found in the door panel, I found the original insurance when the guy who first bought it from my dad.
Oh, put it on.
It was
there. So the
within,
date.
it was
everything's
literally
date
within a
stamped.
few days of 26 years that I got it
Isn't
back.
that crazy?
So to look at this car and go, it's been gone for 26 years and no one chopped it, no one painted
Right.
it, it just didn't maintain it well.
They didn't start
That's all.
primering fender
That's all it
spots.
was. It just wasn't taken care of.
So this
That's all.
car, you were able to clean this car and get it back to its
Pulled
previous
the engine
condition.
out. You know, got rid
Well,
of the tins because
I'd like to tell
Ohio
the
rusted
whole
everything up.
story here. So
Yeah.
I get the car. I start
tip this
trying to
back.
clean it and
Yeah.
polish it, and I get my aluminum polish, and I'm trying to polish
Like, I got this.
those Porsche alloys, and nothing's happening. I'm like, oh, like
And
this
you
we
know-
need like higher level polishing than what I got here, right?
That's the level of
It's-
the oxidization of
Yes.
Cleveland.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, I know what I've got myself into. I'm just gonna start taking my time a little bit here and there. Again, I'm dad. I own my own business too, and I don't have time.
You're busy. You're
I'm
busy.
so busy. So kind of time goes by. I get on this 80s Facebook group.
Yeah, Bob Daniels.
Bob Daniels
Yeah,
Facebook group, right? And I'm just out of my mind. I start posting pictures when I get the car and get a lot of love and feedback, and it's been really exciting. So I'm like, man, this is pretty cool. Like, I didn't realize people like this car so much. Someone sends me a picture of the Colin Burnham's book. They're like, yeah, this was published in this book. Like, my dad had no idea, right? We're learning about our own car over a couple of months period, right?
And that book, like in the UK, it inspired and influenced
like a
so many
Bible for
guys.
them.
Yeah. Like
I've heard that.
you're going back to the 80s. It's not like you had the internet. You could look at all these pictures. I mean, you had that book. You'd go back to that page and stare at it and be like, I'm building that one day. Yeah.
And exactly. I mean, literally, that's what Andy and I were talking about with the Gia. And he did. And he built it. Now he owns it.
Yeah.
But so I'm just learning so much. And I start talking to Bob and others about the Grand National Roadster Show event. And I'm like, now that I have this car, like, and there's so much.
So it was like a
change.
slow burning project. Like, I'll get around to it.
Yeah.
It's not a priority. I have the car secured.
Yeah.
I'm in no rush.
I'm in no rush.
Yeah.
And then Grand National Roadster Show pops up.
And
And
we
I'm
got
like,
in
hey,
a
I'd
rush.
love to go, right? And they're like, yeah, we talked to Kevin Doyle and everyone. They're like, there's no spots. We've got 100 cars and we don't have any more spots. So I'm like, well, just keep me in mind. Something happens, I'd love to be able to get the car there. And Bob's really into it. He's like, I'm going to try. Let's see what happens. I go on vacation. We go camping to the beach after Christmas holiday because my wife's a teacher. Kids are out of school, so we try to do some sort of vacation in between Christmas and New Year's. I get a call while we're on vacation. Hey, we have a spot. We want Cal Dub at the Grand National Roadster Show. And I'm like, I can't get home fast enough. I basically have to rebuild this car because it's got to be Grand National Roadster Show ready. So I'll call my dad. I'm like, we're gonna be home in a couple days from vacation, and just got time to tear into this.
Hey,
car.
Dad, remember those old polishing gloves that you hung up? I need
Pull
you
them
to-
back out again,
I
Dad.
need you to
It's
go
time.
get, your bathrobe coveralls that you
Yeah.
used to wear working on the car with your fuzzy slippers? Okay, yeah, it's time. It's time to break those out, Dad.
Bring those out, Dad. We're gonna start over.
Did you
here.
have like a whole ritual cleaning that car?
Oh, yeah.
So then you
Yeah.
get the car, and all of a sudden it's your car, but Dad's like, no, this is how you have to do things, son. We're gonna start here, we go here, and then we do this. Because I watched this last weekend for me to watch your dad and Steve line cars up at the show. Like, nah, move that angle. I mean,
It's 3 degrees to the left too much. That's not gonna work.
I'm telling you,
3 degrees. Yeah.
These guys put so much, and that comes from that time in those days of show cars where like presentation was everything.
It was.
And it's like, and it probably killed you guys to see the condition of future shock. Like, what's Bill doing over here? I know it bothers you.
We bit
and
our
I'm like,
tongue
and I'm
all day.
so busy. I'm just so busy. And I had the butterfly Tori Alonso helping me. Like, oh yeah, bro, we'll get down there with detail. I'm like, Tori, where are you?
It was like 8:30 and Tori
Yeah.
still hadn't showed up to the car
Tori's
show.
asleep.
But-
I'm like,
hey, we helped him. We helped
Tori,
him.
Tori, are you going to come down and polish anything? Are you going to do anything down here, Tori? Because all you talked about was like how you're excited to do all this stuff.
And where you at?
But yeah, but again, it was one crazy weekend, and Tori couldn't pace himself. Tori went into it headlong and took the full abuse. But
It's a marathon, Tori. Not
Yeah.
a sprint.
He learned.
so you get so the crowning thing with this car was getting it to the Grand National Roadster Show.
Absolutely.
And then the second time we showed together was Future Shock and Cal Dub showed at the last VW Classic that's been so far, right?
Yes.
And we had, and with that I was pretty excited because I wasn't putting on the event, so I had time to get some lay carpet on, and I really wanted to do that for this event, but unfortunately, with putting
You were
on this,
busy, sir.
the
You
worst
did a
part,
lot.
The worst part, I don't even remember the show that just happened. Luckily, I went around and took some video because every time someone was like, Bill, hey, Bill,
Yep.
printer's not working. It's like I'm videotaping and
Hey, Bill, when are we doing the podcast?
yeah.
that
Hey, Bill,
kind of
we're gonna do the podcast. Are we doing it now? How about now? Now? So you get the car done. You show it. So for you showing it, obviously a dad, young kids, you really got to be careful with your time and like you try to hit these stuff. I'm super glad you came down for one crazy weekend. I mean, I think, you know, part of this whole experience with this show is to have it be an experience, a weekend experience where your family's can come down, you can do some stuff, and you know, one of the things for me this weekend that was really great was cruising the Strip. You know, cruising the Strip. It would only been topped by Future Shock being there. You know what I mean? But I'm there, Steve's there, we're there, and we're just cruising. And we, listen, the gods were smiling on us because we just hit a vein of traffic where we just kind of, I mean, I don't think we were, we were just cruising. I heard a bunch of people complain about the Strip, but we just kind of freaked.
Great.
We hit a smooth spot all the way down Stratosphere and back. And I remember seeing you like, bro, this is so awesome. Like, you know, and it was like, you know, for you to tell me it's one of the funnest things you've ever done in that car. You know, to be able to take your dad's car that when you're 9 years old, you're seeing and you're like, you're having these visions of like, oh, one day. And then, you know, your whole world changes when you're 9 years old. And now you're an adult. You got kids of your own. And to get that car back and bring it back to the family, it's got to be, these are more than cars for us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And you got to remember, he didn't get to be in the caravans and stuff. So that's like the caravan for him. He's getting to be around other bugs. You know, when you own a bug, you want to be around people that have bugs. That's what the fun part of it is. It's just exciting when you see 50 bugs going down the freeway together or doing anything. So like last night doing the poker run was a blast. Yeah. It was a lot of fun.
I mean, and
getting to see the cars and people looking.
Now, did you drive CalDub last night on the poker run?
Drove it to the
What was that like?
Fun. That was a really good thing.
It's like
I enjoyed it
It's
a lot.
a mini version of the caravans without all the drama, right? Because if you lose an alternator, you're 10 miles from where you need to go. You're not in Acton, California. Like, where is Acton? Like, do they have
electricity?
Yeah. Because I mean that's I think we've gotten so busy. What's that? Yeah, sitting on towels, right? Like imagine that you're at the store and sir, you've got a towel on your back, but
on the floor too. Don't forget. Yeah, I mean, preserve the carpet.
You know, it's one of those things where being able to experience the Strip cruise, that stuff. It's like we're so busy in our lives right now. We're all, because of digital technology and cell phones and all that stuff, we have 10 times the responsibility you had back in the 80s. If a guy didn't show up at a job site, he didn't show. It's not you called the boss, called as this, get the cell phone. It was the guy didn't show up. You'll figure out tomorrow what happened.
Whether or not he's coming.
And so we're in a different world right now, and to be able to take the time to drive and do a 2-3 day caravan with some people and then turn around and drive back. It's like life's gotten so busy. And so with this weekend, we're able to try to provide a taste of what that stuff is like by having a place where there's enough people around, because that's the great part about the hobby, right? Like if there's enough people around, something happens, someone can help you. And people are always willing to help each other. Yep. Now, for you, not talking to Steve and to Jack Sr., what was it like for you guys to kind of be there? Because this weekend it was that parking lot was jam packed.
To me, it was.
Don't need to bail you out here, Jack. It was awesome. Let's just put it that way.
Be with him.
That was really a lot of fun cleaning our cars together.
Yeah.
How stupid is that? Of all the things that we could be doing, cleaning cars is the fun part.
Right. Just I think what it is putting the effort into the hard work. The hard work and putting the time into getting it prepped and doing all that stuff really makes it worth it. You know what I mean? It's like, to people that don't get it, they seem to be just cars to us, but these cars are an extension of who we are, right? And
your family.
They can tell by your car that you're absolutely neurotic, obsessive compulsive,
right?
with the towels and all that. But you know what I mean? And the same with you. Like your car, you can look at your car and see that you have the patience of Job to sit there on a lathe and just work it back and forth for hours. And it's like these cars and the impact that they have, because I've always looked at something and said, there's this thing that happened when I was a kid, when I was like 8 years old, and I was standing there, and when I look at it, I think back to the first time a neighbor had like a candy apple red 57 Chevy, jacked up on Craigers and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing the car, and today I'd probably think it's kind of a cheesy car, but when I was a kid, I was like,
that was it.
I saw that car and I thought, that guy's got to be so cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So true.
Because what he drives is so cool. And I've always in my head, I've had this tag of like the pursuit of cool.
Yes.
Like we're always looking for that thing that's cool.
Yeah.
And we get to a point at some point where it doesn't even matter if it's cool to somebody else. If it's cool to us, that's the only thing that matters, you know. And specifically with the stuff that you do and what everybody does, it's like you're putting your own twist and your flair on it. And to be able to see that and look at something you guys did when you guys were dopey 20-year-olds.
Yeah. You know, Steve was like a brother to me. We used to spend time at his shop working on cars, listening to Van Halen and Scorpions. and I mean, that was us. That's what made us, you know, keep going.
And
every
talking
day.
about Kevin.
this guy taught me.
Kevin Van who?
This guy, yeah, right.
There's a dartboard with pictures of his cars and Bakersfield.
2 cars, by the way. There was 2 cars I was throwing the darts at. But, you know, Steve taught me how to ride a dirt bike.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I remember.
Yeah.
Those are my memories. And it was because of that car.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for that car, I wouldn't have those memories.
Well, and it could be more fitting that it's the people's car, right? Like this car brings
it really
all
does
these
mean
people
that,
together.
huh? And I've said that before.
Yeah, and it just and it keeps us all connected. Here we are from all different backgrounds, just getting together to have this conversation about.
And sometimes I get a little mad when the guys have
cars.
attitudes at the show because you know what? We're all the same thing, man. We all like the same car.
Yeah.
Why does it matter how I did it and how you do it? It doesn't matter. Just enjoy the fact that we're keeping them alive and we're bringing this tradition back into the world, you know?
Yeah.
We have to. And we have to all like it. It doesn't matter how somebody does their car. I enjoy everything I saw out there. Yeah. You know, and I was leaving today and saw cars I didn't notice. And I'm mad at myself. I'm like, how did I miss that car? It was a really good looking car.
So much going on.
Yeah,
yesterday.
I think that's what it was. And you're hot and, you know, tired.
You know, and that's the thing. It was unreasonably hot yesterday. Yeah. And in spite of that, it was a great show.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, a car show's not a car show unless you leave with a sunburn.
Right. Yes, we always did, didn't we, Steve?
Well, and we had, we had a couple of people take, RK was out there yesterday and he got overheated pretty quick. You know, I mean, it's like.
Yeah, is he okay, by the way?
I think he's okay. I think he's doing okay.
That's what I thought it was.
He got a little
stroke.
Yeah, he got a little bit overheated, but I mean.
That scared me.
You know, we're all getting older, and to some respects, it's like, what do we leave when we leave this world? And if there's things that you put your heart and soul into when you're a young man trying to formulate who you are, that's going to be an extension of your personality, and it kind of goes into those things where there's a physical, tangible thing that's there, that's a direct result of your level of involvement or commitment into something, and it transcends cars, and it kind of goes into who we are as people, right? So I love the fact that, we were able to get that, although I didn't get to enjoy it.
Right.
But I'll watch the video for sure. But, again, for me, it was more about that we were able to kind of get together, put it together, make it happen. Now,
and I thank you for that.
Yeah. And as a dad, you'd close that chapter in your life. The Cal Dub was done. And after you've seen the wheels all tainted and all stuff, you're like, yeah, it's not my car anymore. But to see, did you ever think though, when you sold it meant so much to your son?
No, that's the thing. I did not know how much it meant to him.
Yeah.
I didn't think so. Really didn't.
Well, yeah.
So when I saw his excitement, I was like, wow, I didn't think you cared about it. So that put it back into me. And it's like, it's my car again, So that's why when I clean it the way I did back then. You
never been yelled at by cleaning your own car by somebody.
I don't yell at him. I just go and do it because I'm such an anal SOB, right? It's like, I'm like, God, he missed this spot. He missed that spot. He didn't show. Right. That's the thing. You don't understand unless you've been there, and those judges are pointing out these stupid little things that you did wrong.
You got wax on the bottom.
And when you're reading it, you're going, really? This is what you're going to tell me I did wrong?
Right.
But that's showing. And if you want to be in first place, you got to show. Which I forgot something, which is really, really critical. Yeah. My very first show was RG Canning show for, indoor shows. Uh-huh. That was the very first show that I put
World
the car.
World
of Wheels. Now, this was important because I want you to...
you catch a beating at that show.
No, I want you to hear this.
From the judges, right?
I want you to hear this. This is what's important to me because this is what really kept me going. So I showed it there. One of our club members, BG, it was a girl. She had a magenta fastback?
Squareback. And it was
Squareback,
featured.
It was in one of the magazines, okay? So her and I were both showing our cars. And... comes to the end for the awards, right? I get custom Volkswagen or custom something. I don't remember. But you know what was the most important one? I got most detailed vehicle. I beat the rods out.
Yeah.
I beat the hot rods out.
The hot rods in levels of detail.
On top of that, the guy I bought it from, not that a guy I bought it from, the guy who built it, right?
Right.
Bruce Lefevre comes up and goes, "Is this my car?" And I go, "What's your name?" And he goes, "Bruce Lefevre." I go, "Yeah, this is your car." And he goes, "Holy shit." He says, "This car looks 10 times better than when I built it." I go, "Really?" Because it seemed like you did a nice job. He goes, "Not like this, buddy." He says, "This car is beautiful."
Yeah.
That was another compliment that just hit me really hard. I was like, this is the guy that originally built this car telling me that I made it look better than he did, you know? Yeah. And that's when I asked him, how many coats of lacquer did you put on this? Because I sanded for a long time, buddy. And he goes, "Oh, I was only 2. I go, My dad helped me. I go, maybe Dad was painting when you weren't watching or something. But that was big enough. But when I had the rod guys come over and shake my hand and go, "You know what? At first we were mad that you got it, but then when we came and looked at your car, you deserve that trophy."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Really?" You know, because I knew they were mad.
So that just lit a fire for you.
That lit a fire, because then I said, I am who I think I am. And now when you said leaving a legacy, it's one of those things you think about your life. I'm not Steve. I don't own a shop. So I don't have a lot of cars that I built.
Right.
That I want to do. I want to do that. So to have that one that everybody focused on meant a lot.
Yeah.
When he sent me all that stuff, I was like, holy crap, really?
Yeah.
So I am leaving it for somebody.
Well, and you think about that, the cars, the stuff that you guys did as dopey 20-year-olds. And I'm going to refer to you guys as dopey 20-year-olds because you guys did a lot of dumb stuff. Listening to Van Halen and Scorpions.
Yes.
But the things that you did to see it get received at the Grand National Roadster Show.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the big things, right? When we were
it's
there.
It's an honor.
And you walked in and saw Future Shock on the jack stands and all that stuff. Like, what did you go through, Steve, when you saw all that and you saw those cars there?
I've been to lots and lots of shows, and that was my favorite one because I just got to walk in and everything was done.
Yeah.
I got to absorb all the fun part of it and didn't have to do all the work.
Yeah. Steve did a lot of setting up at shows. I'm here to tell you.
But your show this weekend was fun in a totally different way.
Yeah.
It's a totally different experience. But the one thing that I got out of it, and especially listening to these two, was yesterday when Jack was showing the car and he got a People's Choice Award. His little boy was standing in front of him.
Yeah.
Tried to get him to go up there because that would be the third generation that's receiving trophies from that car.
Yeah.
But maybe next time he'll be a little more,
I think so.
give him a little bit of prepreration because he was like, "No way, I'm not going."
He was just
Is he the third? Is he the third? Did you name him third?
No.
He's Enzo.
His name's
Enzo
Enzo.
and Gio, but
I like it.
he loves the car and just loves being at this stuff. So it's
Well,
really cool.
and you think about that stuff, and you think about, you know, the influence that it had in the scene for further guys and further people that was inspiration for these guys that are doing things today. You know, you never thought when you were 20 years old working some sweatshop in Bakersfield that you'd be having this conversation 40 years
Working
later.
in an alley.
Right.
You know,
In an
building
alley.
your car. And, you know, and I want to make something clear. Jack's my legacy.
Yeah.
But to have a legacy that everybody can
Yeah.
see I never thought it would happen to me. I'll be
Yeah.
honest with you. So to get all that input from all these people that like the car and put it up on their wall, I never thought anybody would say that. I just never even thought that anybody would do that. Just me. I thought I would do that to my own car and put it up on the wall, but never other people. So to hear that from other people, I was humbled. I was like, wow, that's so cool.
You know, it and everything's indicative of the times that when they were happening, right? And so, like today, we saw a lot of really, really nice cars, and it's gone from because the cars were kind of newer back then, right? You could pick up a really nice Volkswagen, start with that, polish up the paint, and then just do detail stuff. And
put wheels on it, and you're done.
Yeah, and I think about it, they weren't old; they were like 10 years old.
Right.
So it's
and
like
so when you're looking at these cars now that guys are doing, the level of detail, the customization has gone down, the level of detail has gone up. If that makes any sense, right?
Yeah.
And so we see cars like Zorba, my car that was debuting this week, that was different, but
that blue bug.
Yeah, a lot of different stuff that's out there that you see today, but you see like Andy, who did a phenomenal job building Zorba for me, but he was influenced by Dennis Hyde's car that you painted, and that's like all he just was obsessed with that car, and it's put him on a trajectory of just being in love with building cars and doing all this stuff, and he loves it, and it's like he's got such a passion for this stuff. I mean, that stupid Ghia that they spent 3 days just beating themselves up over the red Ghia to do that.
The kind of stuff we used to do.
That we were able to get that
bicycle jump
that
yeah.
weekend. I thought was so cool because
it was very
the significance
cool.
of that photo of another generation of car guys that were influenced by the guys in the background.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I mean, there's so much in that. So
and you got to remember too, the detailing is better now because it's the same guys that were the 20-year-old punks that are building them now that have the money to do it the right way.
Yeah.
And they're seeing how other people do things, and now they can put their actual touch on it. When we were kids, I didn't have the money to go buy the best of everything. I did what I could.
Yeah.
You know? Piece of stainless steel went a long way back then.
Oh yeah.
A braided line went a long way. That was the thing, every weekend, I finally got the money. I can put this on, right? I had all my carburetor linkages chrome plated, right? And I'm like, the chrome guy, man, I got to have it for this weekend, man. I got to have it for this weekend, right? So he gives it to me on Friday, right? I'm up till 3:30 in the morning. I can't figure out how it came off. I'm like, I'm going crazy, right? I said, I can't do this. I'm going to go take a nap. So I slept for 2 hours, came out, 15 minutes, I had it on. Yeah. It was just that I was so burned out from working on the car from Monday to Friday that I just didn't have it, right? And then got the car packed and went to the show on Saturday that morning.
I mean, it was like every weekend was just chaos, going to those shows, getting ready and prepping and doing all those cars. And then, Steve, we need you to repaint this. Steve.
Yeah. Yes.
The chaos. So true. The chaos just switched from the chaos at work to the chaos at the shows. It was. Yeah.
Because he had a job. You got to remember that business was his job, and then here we are, Steve. You know what Steve charged me to paint my car? $100. Good luck. Get that done nowadays. $100. He painted my car. I'll never forget that.
Yeah, but
$100 plus the paint, which I bought.
For another $100.
For another $100. Yeah. Good luck on that too, right?
Yeah.
But don't let him. He's only telling half the story because the pan that's underneath your car right now, the reason it's so straight and smooth is because this guy was out there sanding Bondo on a piece of sheet metal welded to the bottom of the car. Yeah. So I could paint his car on that piece of sheet metal.
Yeah. And then when he says he wasn't an airbrusher, that's Steve.
Yeah, I know. And he airbrushed it all in reverse. So when you put it in the mirror,
in reverse, right? Which is even more mind-boggling. How am I going to do this, right? Yeah, make it backwards.
I think I enjoy being the caretaker of Future Shock, and it's like I want to get Future Shock to where. First, Steve's got to come out and show me how to remove the lower rear seat without destroying the interior some way, somehow. I don't even know what the trick is to that, but
simple. You take the armrests off first.
Well, we're gonna go. He's gonna give me a once over on that, but
yeah.
But it's one of those things where I want to get that car to where I can hop in it and enjoy it. Right now, it fires up every time. Because what's interesting is back in those days, every car now today you see on the debuts 2276, 2332, 40, like all these big things. And back in those days, it was 1641, 1776,
1835.
And those motors, you just turn the key, it starts up, it runs.
You didn't get any more points for it to be a 2-liter or a stock 1600 inside.
Right. And that was a little bit of the inspiration behind Zorba, the new car. It was like, Andy and I are driving. This is full circle now. This is around the world. We're in the Netherlands driving Dennis Hyde's Ghia before we come up with the idea that he's going to do. Last year, he walked my garage and said, send me the car. I'll fix the car. I'll put the car together. You're too busy. You don't have the time. And we're driving. And I remember we're just cruising this road, listening to the radio. And I'm like, bro, can you believe this? Like, we're freaking driving in this car that was built in Bakersfield in the Netherlands. And we're just cruising. And I'm like, what happened to the simple days of like a small motor, get it on the highway, and you're just cruising. You're not stressing out about the overheating or this or that. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I think my next car I want to do big stereo, and a
Little motor.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, the guy we pulled in the other day, and the guy goes, "Where's your stereo? Turn it on." I told him, I said, "See, you got to get those woofers for that thing."
But you know, it was it was the time where it was, what did you want? And it was about, you know, because the display of big motors, like I could be faster than you, but the stock motor into the cruise, and I mean, I was on the strip with my wife just in the car, just blasting music, and I'm like, this is what it's all about. And I'm not stressed out about overheating. I'm just cruising, and everyone's like, "Hey, open the engine bar. Let's see the motor." I'm like, "There's nothing to look at." Some stock painted.
Yeah, I don't think if I had a 2100 in that bug that I would have been going northern and Southern California all the time, because that thing was reliable, man. I used to go up to Grapevine 65 mile an hour, not even trying.
Well, that's that's the thing. So listen, it still inspired the freshest build that came out this last weekend, which was my car, man. It was, and that inspiration comes from two guys, one guy from Vegas and one guy from England, and we're over there and we're just in the Netherlands driving this car, having this conversation. I'm like, we got to take it back to the basics, you know, the days when things were simple.
Goes back to what you said earlier. Just wanted to look cool. Right?
That's it.
Yeah.
The
Big
pursuit of
sound.
cool.
Yeah.
Cool car. Didn't need a big motor.
Well,
Yeah.
guys, I'm glad we got to do this. We did a podcast at the Grand National Roadster Show last time, and I had taken a 2-month vacation in Mexico.
Yeah, I heard about
And
that.
during that,
I see you got some sun.
Yeah, I'd lost. That's from the car show. I lost the podcast that we did, and there's only one more I got to get back, which is with Steve Sanford, the pinstripe guy and car rendering guy. But I really wanted to get this one back because there's so much more to just the car story than just, you know, what people think it is, and I'm stoked. And Jack Jr. had the car featured just recently in
February 2024. Happy days.
February 2024, like a
6-page article.
yeah. I mean, how cool is that, right? To be able to kind of, because there's something to that, right? Because in this world, and Vegas is a great example of that, right? Everything gets old, they destroy it.
Yeah.
There's no history. The reason you can see Rome from here today is because it's Caesar's Palace, right?
Right.
Everything here is kind of temporary, and it's and
Very true.
you know, we have an
Throwaway
opportunity.
society.
Yeah, we have an opportunity to salvage some of those things that were the building blocks of what turned into our hobby, you know, of what it is today. So I'm glad I got history parked in my garage that I can hop into.
History is important.
And-
Everybody needs to realize that.
and drive to the store and see some kids like, "Why is that car pink, man?" Let me come here. Let me tell you something.
Yeah, let me explain this
And
to
explain to them how the way it was back in the day. So
you. And that's the other thing too I wanted to say about Steve. You know, Steve put out cars.
yeah,
There wasn't no 2-3 year projects.
yeah,
Steve put them out.
yeah.
I
He'd get like, "Whose car are we doing?"
And
for
you
the
got to
next
remember
show?
again, like I said, that was his business. So he was fixing people's cars and doing tune-ups on them and brakes or whatever it was. Girls that ran them out of oil and turned the stereo up, all that kind of stuff. He worked on all that on top of working on the other cars, the show
Yeah.
cars. There was a guy, and I don't remember his name, but Steve did a yellow bug that was pearl yellow. Do you remember?
I remember the car, not the name.
I
'cause
can't
he was from
remember his name.
He came from Lompoc.
Yeah, and he actually he worked on the space shuttle. He did the panels.
Oh, really?
You know, he was part of that, right? But he was in our club, right? So, and that car was beautiful, but he never showed it. I think he took it like one show.
Really?
Yeah. But it was, I mean, the cars that came out of there,
Yeah.
you got to understand, it wasn't just what you saw at the shows and what's in the magazines. There's other ones out there that Steve did.
There's more to Bakersfield than just farmland.
Exactly. Exactly.
The Volkswagens are blowing out of that place like a bag of Skittles.
Yeah, all those colors too.
That's it. That's it.
And all those colors.
Well, guys,
too.
I'm glad we got to sit down and do this again. I'm glad we got
Yeah.
to see that what I enjoy the most is really being able to recognize some of that history that's gone on in the hobby and
Yeah.
see how it's kind of pushed things to today, because you know everything's here today because of what happened yesterday. So
Yeah. Sorry, I got emotional. But
no, listen, man, it's you know
It means that much.
that's it. It's what it's all about, and you know to be able to cruise the strip with those cars, you know, and then have everybody there. It was 45 minutes of something that some people never understand.
No, they never will.
Never understand driving by a plate glass window and looking
Yeah.
looking at the reflection of your car.
Oh, that's so funny that you brought that up. You know what we used to do? Back then, the tankers, the oil tankers were polished. And we would take the pictures of us either off the tanker or off the hubcaps. And I got a picture of my car that's reflecting off the hubcap and the car's bent.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's how, that's how we thought back
Oh, yeah.
then. That was what
Yeah.
was exciting to
That's
us.
it.
Look at this, man. Look at this picture, right?
That's it.
Because they were all polished back then, man. Every freaking tanker was polished back then. So you were always seeing them on the freeway.
Well, I know you guys got to hit the road. Both of you, all
Yeah.
you guys are headed out of town. I appreciate
Yeah.
you making the time to stop in and do the podcast.
Thank
today.
you, Bill. Thank you for
Thank
everything.
you, Bill.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah,
man.
Hell
I
of a
think
way to end one crazy weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely is.
I think it's
And you
interesting.
did a great job, Bill.
It's interesting that you're talking to people from 30 years ago and how we maybe have influenced what's happening today.
40 years ago.
Yeah.
40.
Okay. But I think it's going to be interesting
40
to
years.
to see what influence like you and Tori are making in the industry and where things will
Yep.
be in 40 years from now, because I have no doubt in my mind that had you guys not doing what you're doing,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be what it's going to be.
Yeah.
No, I agree 100% because you even said last year you had 40 cars. This year you had what?
Well,
300?
the first year we did it, we had 40 cars.
40 cars.
Last year we had 200 cars. This year we have two. But I mean, it's grown. My events almost doubled every year because of
That's you.
the experience.
Yeah.
You know.
That's you. I mean, that's why it's happening.
And that's the number one question I ask everybody at my event is, how did you like it? Did you like it? Was it a good time? Come back from the poker and come back from the strip cruise, whatever. Like, did you have a good time? You know, because there's just when we get in this mode of just like, okay, I'm going to spend all my money and then see what everybody thinks about it. Like, that's not what it's about.
It's about the experience.
It's about the pursuit of cool and
Yes.
drive. And there's
pursuit of cool.
nothing better I love seeing than people's faces that don't have a Las Vegas Boulevard, that don't have something like that nearby, when they're on the strip and then people turn around and start looking at the cars and filming the cars.
Instead of looking at the strip.
happened all night.
There's a bank of people that were just like, they turn away from the attractions that Vegas has spent millions of dollars on marketing and experts and all this
Yeah, we
stuff.
took it away with our bugs.
And here we come cruising down the strip. And just
Tori
like,
and I were side by side with Rag Chop and Caldo. It was just that, like, people were videoing, and it was just every age as well.
two
too.
cars from the 80s that are grabbing attention. You know what I mean?
So
like, it still
rad.
resonates today. So
That's what's amazing. And again, goes to show that it really is the people's car.
that's it.
Because people will go to that car. And when I was working at the German repair shop, 80% of the people in there, they always had a story about a Volkswagen they owned when they were younger.
Yep.
And a smile would come on their face every time. Never was it sour or, all that piece of junk, nothing. And might have been a piece of junk too, but it didn't matter. It made them happy and it made them smile. So they had to tell me about it
That's it.
all the time.
Well, guys, I appreciate you guys for coming back. You guys got a long drive home, and we'll do it again.
All right, Bill.
Thank you,
Thank
Bill.
you.
See you next year.
Bye, buddy.
Well, if you liked that podcast, and I'm sure you did, make sure you share this podcast with all your friends. Forward it to anybody you know that's a VW enthusiast, because we love when you guys help share the podcast. To support your favorite podcast, go to letstalkdubs.com, click on the store, and purchase some merch to support your favorite podcast. We'll have some new stuff coming out soon, as well as I'm going to be uploading the leftover shirts that I have from the show. I only have about 20 shirts left over from the event, so they're first come, first serve. I have large, extra large, and some mediums, and that's it. So we'll get those posted on the website, $30 including shipping, but I may be selling some posters, wristbands, poker chips, and things like that. So until next week, guys, later.
You probably don't know that there's a new Volkswagen out that doesn't look like a Volkswagen.